In this video, we're going to explore probability. Probability is thought of as the chance an event or outcome will occur. An event is just a fancy name for an outcome. We often use notation to simplify the written portion. This notation looks like the font that was just introduced. The probability of something equals. Probability is always between 0 and 1. We write the probability as either a decimal or a fraction. If possible, we want to write probability as a fraction. To demonstrate the likelihood of the probability of 0 and 1, we'll show that as follows. If a probability is thought of to be 0, 0 is thought of as being impossible. It's not going to happen. The probability written as being 1, that's an absolute certainty. It will occur. And the probability, if it is about 1/2, then it's a fair chance. And anything in between 0 and 1/2, it's not very likely. Anything between 1/2 and 1, it's more likely. Again, any probability between 0 and 1/2 is probably not likely, and anything between 1/2 and 1 is very likely to happen. If possible, we can always describe the probability using numbers and descriptions. The descriptions are these words here, like impossible, not likely, fair chance, very likely, and absolutely certain. This leads us to another question. Can probability be less than 0? No. Since 0 is impossible, how can anything be worse than impossible? By the same token, can the probability be greater than 1? Same answer. No. How can anything be better than absolute certainty? This leads us into our next thought. Probability is thought of as the number of total ways an outcome can occur divided by the number of possible outcomes. For example, take a look at this circular spinning board. Notice that we have 7 different places that purple arrow can fall on. For the sake of this, let's just assume that each piece is the same exact size. What is the probability of getting a red? Well, if we take a look at this, the number of total ways the red outcome can occur is only 1. There is only one red piece in that 7-piece circle. How many possible outcomes are there in that circle there? Well, there are 7 possible outcomes. So the probability of getting a red is 1 out of 7. Well, what's the probability of getting a yellow? Well, how many yellow colors are there? Well, there are no yellow pieces in that circle. Since there are no yellow circles and there are 7 possible pieces there, the probability of getting a yellow is just 0 out of 7, which simplifies to 0. And again, the probability of getting a 0, well, that's impossible. You cannot. A probability of getting yellow is impossible. It won't occur. Let's take a look at probability using coins. Let's say we have a double-headed coin. What is the probability of getting a head? Well, there are 2 possible ways to get a head, and there are only 2 possible outcomes. So the probability of getting a head is 2 out of 2. Remember, we can reduce this to 1. In other words, we can be absolutely certain that this will occur. There are 2 other terms that we could talk about. There is experimental probability, which is just the probability from the experiments you performed. We like to call this probability from the experiments you performed, we call that relative frequency. How often did something occur in the experiment that we performed. Next, another term we like to say is theoretical probability. Theoretical probability is probability that is common knowledge. For example, we know that the probability of getting a tails on a two-sided coin is just 1/2. That's just the common knowledge. Often, this theoretical probability is derived from a probability model. We always try to compare our relative frequency or our experimental probability to the probability model.